Welcome back to Zone Media Network. Big news from the New York mayoral race as Eric Adams has officially dropped out. A move I have mixed feelings about since he wasn't the worst option among the original three candidates. His exit now leaves Zoran Mamdani, who currently leads, facing off solely against former Governor Andrew Cuomo, whose disastrous handling of the COVID crisis I still strongly resent. And this shift carries major consequences for the race and for Mamdani's campaign, which is already facing a new wave of challenges that we'll be breaking down right here on USA Zone.
Welcome back, everybody, to Fox News Live. Big breaking news out of the Big Apple today. Eric Adams dropping out of the New York City mayoral race. He's released a video confirming his campaign is ending, and obviously we're going to work on getting that for you. In that video, Adams goes on to say it's been an honor to be your mayor, and then, of course, he goes on to tout his many victories over his first term. We want to welcome in Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn. He is live with the very latest. Eric, surprised or not so much?
Well, actually, it's a stunning development, Kevin. People have been talking about this for several weeks, whether he will drop out or not. Yesterday, in an interview, he said that he would consider that. But it does reshuffle the race, and experts say it is the one possibility to try and stop Democratic Socialist radical Zoran Mamdani from winning in this mayoral race. You know, Eric Adams had high hopes when he first was elected. He had been a former police officer, took moderate positions, but they were dashed by a corruption probe and other issues. So he decided to quit because of his low poll numbers and the fact that he just couldn't raise any money. He was placing fourth in this race. His popularity has plummeted after he was charged with bribery and accepting illegal campaign contributions. Those charges dropped. Amid accusations, he made a deal with President Trump, something both deny. Adams said he just couldn't go on because he said with these fundraising problems and questions about his viability, he could not see a path to continue.
Withdrawal of Mayor Eric Adams from the re-election race is a major setback for far-left socialist candidate Zoran Mamdani. For weeks, Adams and Andrew Cuomo had been splitting the voter base needed to seriously challenge Mamdani's lead. Now, with Adams officially out, the path clears for Cuomo to consolidate support, making it much more likely that the gap between him and Mamdani will narrow. While this is just one of several challenges Mamdani will face in his bid for mayor of New York City, it may prove to be the most consequential, as Cuomo suddenly has a realistic chance to catch up something that would have been nearly impossible with multiple candidates dividing the vote.
A new post out from President Trump about the New York mayoral race, which we've been talking about all morning. He said, self-proclaimed New York City communist Zoran Mamdani, who's running for mayor, will prove to be one of the best things to ever happen to our great Republican Party. He's going to have problems with Washington like no mayor in the history of our once great city. Remember, he needs the money from me as president in order to fulfill all of his fake communist promises. He won't be getting any of it. So what's the point of voting for him? This ideology has failed always for thousands of years. It will fail again, and that's guaranteed. President DJT issuing a warning to New Yorkers this morning. I have to tell you that I imagine that the folks who were planning to vote for Mamdani look at that kind of warning, and that doesn't talk them out of voting for him. In fact, it may help persuade more folks who, are worried about what's happening in Washington. Having said that, we've talked a lot on this set before about the fact that the National Guard has emerged in all these other cities, has not come to New York. I think one of the reasons for that, and it's pure conjecture, but it may very well be because Adams was in this role and he had this sort of weird relationship or special relationship, but unusual relationship with this president and what happens. And whether New Yorkers should be voting based on that is an interesting concept unto itself.
Well, let me just look at some of the numbers on this. In fiscal year 2025, federal funds made up about 8.3% of the city's operating budget, including nearly $1.1 billion in pandemic-related funds. The funding comes through direct grants, competitive applications, formula-based allocations supporting programs like housing choice vouchers for low-income residents. In fact, the city receives billions of dollars through programs like the HUD tenant-based rental assistance program. Over $32 billion flows to the city's healthcare providers and insurers through programs like Medicaid. Although federal spending cuts do pose risk to that, infrastructure comes from that, education. So those are areas that would be I don't know if the president can follow through on that, go through that, because the Congress is who controls the spending.
Well, that's the other question. Would Congress stand up and say, no,
we're not going to do that?
We're not going to do that.
I can't imagine Congress would support targeting certain areas, but I don't know if the president has other means and other ways of cutting certain programs. But that's what's at risk, 8.3% of the city's budget for fiscal 2025.
President Trump has come out firmly against Zoran Mamdani, essentially saying he will not provide federal funding to New York City because Mamdani's far-left ideology would depend on government money to survive. In short, Trump's stance is that socialism doesn't work, and he won't bankroll it. And honestly, he's right. Mamdanist radical ideas, like having the government run grocery stores to sell food at cheaper prices, are terrible and have failed everywhere they've been tried. History has proven time and again, no matter what Bernie Sanders or other democratic socialists argue, socialism has never worked ever. Not in red states, not anywhere. Mamdani's policies run completely counter to the vision of the founding fathers. And the fact that he even has a shot at becoming mayor of New York City is not only a disgrace to the Democratic Party, but to the country as a whole. The only silver lining is that with Eric Adams dropping out, many moderate voters may now rally behind Andrew Cuomo, which could be enough to slow down Mamdani's dangerous momentum.
Some major breaking news in the New York City mayoral race. Incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, who was running for re-election as an independent, has dropped out of the race. Adams will now be the first one-term New York City mayor since David Dinkins lost re-election back in 1993. The scandal-plagued mayor had been struggling in the polls, with a recent Fox News poll showing him dead last at 8% behind his rivals Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and even Curtis Sliwa. Here's what Adams said earlier in a video announcing the end of his campaign.
Despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope you will see that despite the headlines and innuendo, I always put you before me, always.
And joining us exclusively for his first live sit-down interview since the shakeup in the race, Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the New York City mayoral race. Great to have you back here on the set. We got to say that we weren't expecting to have you here, so we really appreciate you making time because of the news. I'll start broadly by getting your reaction to the fact that Eric Adams, who is polling fourth, has dropped out, and what this means for the race going forward.
Look, Donald Trump and his billionaire donors may be able to determine the actions of Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, but they will not dictate the results of this election. This continues to be the same election as it was when we started on October 23rd, a choice that New Yorkers have between Eric Adams' record, which is Andrew Cuomo's agenda, one that has priced New Yorkers out of what is now the most expensive city in the United States of America, or our vision for a city that New Yorkers can actually afford. And I'm excited and just as confident as I was yesterday at actually delivering that vision and winning this race on November 4th.
Do you have a sense of what's behind this decision today? We've all heard that Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, claims that he's been offered large sums of money from powerful people to get out of the way. Do you think that's what's happened here?
No, I think we have to put this in a larger context, where after we beat Andrew Cuomo by 13 points in the Democratic primary, he called Donald Trump to ask what they could do together to defeat our campaign in the general election. And Donald Trump has spoken time and again about how he wants to narrow this race, how he wants to use every tool at his disposal to try and stop this campaign for affordability. And we're seeing, amidst all of that, here yet again, the moment where he is shaping this race, but we're going to show him that New Yorkers are tired of his politics and they're tired of being priced.
In Mamdani's cocky behavior on MSNBC this week after Eric Adams dropped out is a terrible look for him and his campaign, especially since his lead is now within the margin of error once Adams is removed from the polls. If Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa ends up dropping out as well, Andrew Cuomo could suddenly have a real shot at defeating Mamdani on November 4th. Now, I'll be the first to admit I think Cuomo's handling of COVID was awful, truly disastrous, but compared to Mamdani, I would still pick Cuomo, as painful as that is to say. And Charlie Kirk is right. The rise of candidates like Mamdani reflects a deeper problem among the younger generation, many of whom feel they'll never be able to own anything home's property, a stake in the American dream, and that hopelessness fuels radical politics. This is something we need to fix as a nation, because if young people don't believe they can own and build a future, they won't fight to preserve it. The truth is, despite his public confidence, Mamdani's campaign is in panic mode. Socialists only make up about 40% of New York City's electorate. And once you add up all the moderates and non-socialist voters, there's more than enough to stop him. That needs to happen, because giving someone like Mamdani power would be dangerous for New York and the country. While there's speculation that Trump's team might encourage other candidates to step aside, nothing has been confirmed. Adams' exit was simply the result of collapsing poll numbers and disastrous fundraising. At the end of the day, Mamdani's bravado masks just how vulnerable he really is, and his campaign could be on the verge of unraveling within weeks.
Eric Adams had a warning for New Yorkers in his parting message, and I want to play that and have you respond on the other side.
I must also sound a warning. Extremism is growing in our politics. Our children are being radicalized to hate our city and our country. Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos.
What do you make of that message? Do you feel that that's directed towards you and is not so veiled swipe at your Muslim heritage, but also your position, some of your policy positions? What's your response to that?
Well, I think that the only thing I truly find to be extreme is Eric Adams' record. This is a man who's raised the rent on more than 2 million New Yorkers by 12%, a man who slowed down already the slowest buses in the country, one who priced New Yorkers out of childcare that cost them about $25,000 a year. That's what's extreme. That's what's radical. And our vision to deliver affordability, it's common sense, and we're seeing that it's popular across the 5 boroughs.
Voice Oren, Mamdani is promising all kinds of radical changes for New York City, speeding up buses, forcing residents to choose between privatized or government-run grocery stores with artificially lowered prices, and somehow slashing rent across millions of apartments, despite inflation soaring under the Biden administration. But here's the reality check. If Mamdani were actually elected, he would be completely ineffective as mayor, because President Trump has already made it clear he will withhold the federal support. A NYC mayor needs to push through an agenda. In other words, Mamdani would be a lame duck from day one, cut off at the knees, unable to deliver, and leaving the city to stagnate. If he loses, his campaign is a failure, and he fades into a... If he wins, he becomes a powerless placeholder who talks into microphones but accomplishes nothing. Either way, the future for his campaign is bleak, and the best option for him would honestly be to drop out now. Of course, judging by his cocky MSNBC appearance, he won't do that. He'll run full steam ahead, even though socialism in New York City would be a disaster. And that's where we'll wrap up today's video here on American Zone. I'm Gref, your host. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.